Hi there. My name's Tanner, and I'm here to help you become a better problem solver. So let's walk through a few concepts you may be able to apply when reasoning through things like a physicist does. The first step I always take when I'm trying to solve a problem is listing out my knowns and unknowns. It's one of the simpler steps that you can do, but it will save you a lot of headaches down the road if you can figure out what the problem tells you as well as what you're trying to solve for. The next step I take is to try and sketch a picture if possible, and this can look a lot of different ways, whether graphical, artistic, or even just rewording the problem. Usually finding another way to represent the problem will help you find a solution. Next, while you're conceptualizing what steps you're going to need to take in order to solve the problem, you'll want to start writing down any equations or concepts that will end up being useful. Once you've done this, it's time to go ahead and evaluate and try and solve the problem. And then afterwards, as I've learned through my time in physics, you need to determine if this result seems reasonable or not. Typically, common sense or other values you've solved for previously can give you an insight into whether your result seems fair or not. If you've tried all of those steps and still couldn't find a solution to your problem, there's a few more things you could do that could probably help. The first is simply rereading the problem again. Another thing that I often have to do is take a quick 5 to 10 minute break to let my brain refresh and come back with a new perspective. The next thing you could do is try and find a simplified version of the problem so that you can solve the simpler version first and then expand outwards to the more difficult or complex problem. Another thing you can do is just ask for help from someone who's maybe more experienced or might have another perspective. And then the last is, if none of this is working, then there may be other skills that you could learn that would be very useful for whatever problem you're working on. So now let's go ahead and take a look at an example problem. How many piano tuners are there in Chicago, Illinois? This question belongs to a type of problems known as the Fermi problems. So as I'll show here in a minute, I didn't know the population of Chicago off the top of my head, and so my only initial known from this problem was that the population of the United States is roughly 300 million. I chose to reword this problem in my head as how many piano tuners could there be in Chicago in order to shed some light on the steps I would need to take. Feel free to pause the video where needed to look at the math, but I'll be discussing the different assumptions I made during my problem-solving process. The first assumption I made was that about half of the U.S. population lives in the 15 biggest cities, and so the population of Chicago comes out to be about 10 million. And then if we assume that the average number of people per household is 2.5, then the number of houses in Chicago is 4 million. And so then I said that roughly 5% of households would have a piano at home, making the number of pianos in Chicago being 200,000. And if we assume it costs $100 to tune each piano, and each piano must be tuned once per year, the total revenue for piano tuning in Chicago is $20 million per year. And so if the average piano tuner makes $50,000 a year, the number I came up with is there are about 400 piano tuners in Chicago. I determined that as long as all of my assumptions leading up to my final result are reasonable, which I believe they are, my final result is also reasonable. When compared with the actual number from 2009, we can see that we came roughly within 100 people of the actual value for the number of piano tuners in Chicago. This is a great example of what you can do when you put effective problem-solving skills to use. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more science-based content. Thanks for watching.